Hello and welcome to the Cutie Art Crusaders, episode 165 for September 22nd, 2015. I almost read that as 2015. My vision obviously isn't 2015. My name is Rainbow Plasma. I am the host and organizer of the podcast, and today I'm joined by...
Brony, the special guest coordinator.
And I'm Atmospark. I'm questions and DeviantArt guy and stuff like that. You know.
So we have no Flutter Guy 317 this week. Ted is out. Not quite sure what he's doing, but I'm pretty sure he's down at the local beach house where he took Bernd and I and a couple other people when we went to visit him for BronyCon. You know, the last kind of... I don't know why, but my brain went to the last drippings of summer. I don't know why I went to drippings, but the last little bits of summer are coming up, so I wouldn't be surprised.
The last oozes.
He's spending a lot of time up there.
Totally.
He's also been doing some job stuff recently, so it could be that as well. If I scroll through the chat, I'll probably figure out the reason, because he posted it, but I'm too lazy to do that. So instead, I'm just going to give generic answers.
Why would we check WhatsApp?
Yeah.
It's just, it's because he's Canadian, am I right?
Right.
Yeah, that must be it.
Them Australians.
That must be it, yeah.
Them Connecticutians.
So, we didn't have any other talking points. Can you tell? But we received an email recently that we thought would be kind of interesting to talk about. So, yeah. Why don't you take it away, Bernd, because you wanted to talk about it. It was something that you responded to personally in the email, but we also want to talk about it a little bit publicly, too.
Yeah, I wanted to bring it up because it's an interesting point on the show. So recently we received an email from Muffin Man, who's an artist we've featured previously on the show. He did, if anyone remembers, he did the Lyra, the Art Nouveau Lyra, like touching the hand of God or like the human hand.
Both of them have something, isn't it? Cool.
It was a traditional like watercolor piece. It was really good. And so if you guys don't remember that, you want to check it out, I'll put his name on the screen there for you. And it's MUFFYN-MAN. But anywho, he sent us in an email, and I'm going to basically sum it up. But he basically was saying that when we feature an art piece, we usually, at least on the show in general, we usually talk about how it looks, like visually, and just like, you know, color composition and color theory and things like that. But we never really talk about, or how do you put this? We don't usually go into like an in-depth critique or analysis on its context, if that makes sense. What he was basically saying in the email is we don't kind of look at it from like an art historical standpoint, but like not like obviously super like art historical, like still relating to ponies or whatever. And what he means by that is in a lot of art history, the context or the meaning or the history behind something is almost more important than the actual object itself. So it's like the ideas of the artists or the people who were painting and portraying them or whatever. And so he was just curious if we might want to like apply that and like some of our pony stuff when we do critiques. And I guess that was an interesting concept for me because like I felt like we had done that to a certain extent with like artists we know, but usually when we feature an art piece, you know, we're just talking about like why it's pretty or why we think it's pretty and just like kind of dissecting it strictly as a visual thing, right?
We usually take it on face value.
Yeah, exactly. And not looking at like it's more like inner like context or whatever. And so that brought up an interesting discussion. So what I was talking about with Max is like it's kind of hard to find that context about a lot of things, right? Because what we always try to do is we try to feature a new artist or like someone we don't know anything about or someone we've never seen. And we strictly just grabbed this artwork that we found that's pretty on their DeviantArt and only comes with a DeviantArt description, and then we throw it on our podcast and on YouTube with what like we see in it, and like that's about it. That's, you know, that we don't always do that. Obviously, there's some artists we know really well, like Assassin Monkey or whomever, but we usually, or you know, a lot of the times, we'll just like, just take the face value of art, you know. So.
Well, yeah, I think from my personal perspective, there's a couple of reasons why, you know, I'd say that, like, I was just thinking about it, and I'd say there's, like, 4 reasons why I might not have that approach just when I'm picking art pieces. You know, obviously the other guys can speak for themselves, or, you know, the points that Bernd brought up were great, and some of my points are relating to those. But for me, like just simply the four different things. First of all, the art history stuff doesn't always it's not always a huge interest to me. I talk about stuff that interests me all the time. That's what I do. That's what the show's about, is us bringing up stuff that's interesting to us. Taking suggestions, of course, but for the most part, I come to this talking about stuff that I want to talk about, and history and art history has never been an area that is really interesting to me. The other thing is, too, as Byrne mentioned, we try to bring up new artists all the time. I especially really, really like doing this. I like going out and finding new artists and having art pieces on the show that are made by new people, so we can expand not only the number of people that might see our show, because then they'll see that their piece is featured, but also for our viewership to see a wide variety of different things. The other thing that Byrne kind of mentioned was the fact that sometimes pony pieces are new. I like picking relevant pony pieces that we do talk a little bit about context when it comes to like new episode pieces, for example, but we try to grab newer ones because a lot of the times those are exciting for us. It's stuff that we haven't seen over and over again, so that's a really cool thing as well. And I can't remember what the fourth reason was, but I'm sure it had a totally legitimate meaning behind it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons behind why we might not have taken that approach. I think the main one for me is that it's just never been something that's tremendously been interesting to me. But I think what Byrne was mentioning, and what I agree with, is that we do. I think we do sometimes do. Oh, the fourth. I remember what the fourth one was. We do. This doesn't excuse us not doing more art history stuff, but we have a lot of guests, and perhaps Muffin Man isn't talking about the guest episodes, or maybe he's not familiar with the art episodes, but or the guest episodes rather. But the guest episodes are our opportunity to talk to the artists and learn more context about them, because as Byrne mentioned, sometimes we just don't know the context, we don't know the people, right? And it's really hard to gain context sometimes if you don't know the people and their circumstance. So yeah, we try and take that approach more so during the guest episodes. But this is a really interesting point that's brought up, and we appreciate the feedback, and it's super cool.
Yeah, towards the end of his email, he basically asked us if we'd ever be interested in doing a more like quote-unquote art history context episode, or like a behind the artist or behind the art episode, where like we more delve into what makes the art really interesting other than it's like visually pretty, if that makes sense. And like I looked at that and I was like, I mean, that seems like a pretty cool idea. Or even like if we don't make an episode out of it, just while we're looking at pieces, maybe, or like looking for pieces to feature, maybe just looking for something that is more cool, like contextually about it. Right.
Right, like the circumstance around the piece is cool too. I will admit that when we look for art pieces, oftentimes we'll look for, does this have stuff that we can talk about? There's lots of art pieces out there that many of us favorite, but we don't favorite it for the show because it doesn't have that much that we talk about. But that's a good point, which is most of us have probably not been thinking about the context in terms of a talking point, and we probably could do that more.
Like I do that occasionally. Like if I see something that has either a what do you call it, a sociological aspect, or something that relates to something that happens in the show as context, then I like to bring those up. If it's a well-designed or a well-done piece that has that backstory to it, I'll usually try and bring that up. But it's not that common in the stuff that we feature, unfortunately.
Well, it's like it's not quite that common of a concept in fan art in general, just kind of like fan art as a medium is made to appreciate its subject, which is ponies. And so like to take that and then also give it more contextual meaning to you as an artist, and then apply it to your art for us to view, and then also for us to understand, is kind of a hard thing to do over the internet unless we know you personally, or you put out more information for us to consume, right? So it's like the only things I can really think of are like personal projects that people do that are like with original characters they create in the pony universe, right? Or something else comes. Yeah, some stuff like Children of the Night, and other things come to mind too, where I was recently talking to an artist, Cassette Set, and he's good friends with Sharpie Boss, if you know who that is. And what Cassette Set was telling me is that every piece Sharpie Boss draws, he has an intense emotional connection to that piece, and he finds inspiration for drawing pony art pieces through emotions and through his personal feelings to whatever he's doing, right? And so like that's an intense amount of context that we would never get through DeviantArt because like there's no way for us to know that unless we actually asked him personally, you know.
Or if they put a 3-page journal into the underneath it.
Yeah,
which nobody does.
So like basically, long answer short, like we'd totally love to add more like kind of contextual basis in the stuff we talk about on the show to give cool meaning to the stuff we feature. But it's just sometimes this is not easy, you know. It's easier said than done.
While we were, I just thought of this, but while we're on the topic of art history in a way, what I think might be fun is to have an episode where we specifically look for old pieces, like old famous pieces that we haven't featured, or maybe that we featured a long time ago. Something from 2010 or 2011.
The old masters like John Hoseko or Pixel Kitties.
Right, back in like 2010, 2011, some of like the formative fandom pictures. That would be something that would interest me, because I'm not a huge history guy, but that would be something that would interest me. And so, on this show we try to take these concepts and apply it to how we might find them interesting, and then show them to other people in ways that they might find it interesting. So, hey,
totally.
Maybe that's a way.
Maybe. Could do that.
That might be fun. That sounds like a cool idea, so I might be up for that.
Yeah, that's all I got. Thanks again, Muffin Man, for the email. It's good stuff.
Also, watch a couple of our interview episodes with guests, see if there's anything there that sort of rings out to you.
Okay, so let's move on to the art. We all picked an art piece this week, and Bernd is going first. So why don't you start us off?
Sweet. So the piece I chose for this week is actually a little different than what we normally feature in, or have been featuring in some of our like you pick and choose and bring episodes we've been doing. And so the piece I chose is called Nightmare Moon by Stickaroo. And I don't know if we've even featured this artist before, Stickaroo.
I don't think so.
I know of this artist and I've known of his art for a while, but I haven't actually let me double check one thing. Her art, she's from the United Kingdom. We haven't actually what was I even saying? I got distracted.
We haven't featured that before.
Yeah, we have not featured this artist before, but I've known of this artist, and I've really liked her art because it's very like weird and unusual in like good ways, because it always does something kind of cool and colorful. And now this is a traditional sketch piece by her that is really caught my eye, one in uniqueness, and then two in like kind of the styles that she's used. And also it's just like it's literally just quite literally a photo of her sketchbook, right? Like just talking with the image for what it is, like it looks like a cell phone picture of her sketchbook of Nightmare Moon, But the sketch itself technically is really awesome, and it's using a few cool really things that I'd like to point out. And like the first big one that really that I noticed that caught me even from like the thumbnail is she's using this old like kind of very traditional form of cross hatching, and that's straight away. That's really apparent in Nightmare Moon's main, where you have the different like forms of diagonal cross hatching. That's just like a few lines going in like different ways, kind of creating like a zigzag or a basket pattern almost, and I just thought it was like cool, visually appealing. It helped to give the hair volume without having to actually shade the whole thing in.
It is very effective.
And then also, the last little thing to point out is, besides from the cross hatching and how she uses that, and then also to shade areas like the body and neck, but more traditional forms of like lines going all in the same direction, which is done very well again. The character is very blocky. The character is very pointy, and what Joel likes to point out and Ted likes to point out is that pointy things makes a character look more villainous, makes them look more like daunting. And adds kind of like an evil, sinister characteristic to them. And since this is Nightmare Moon and she's a villain, I feel like Stickaroo has kind of intentionally made this character, Nightmare Moon, kind of more lanky, pointy, and like has pointy bits to her face and armor, and like more geometric, like body anatomy as well.
Also
and yeah, it's just like overall, this is a really cool and impressive sketch.
Also, the posing that she's chosen to do, like we're looking up at her. She's got this sort of sneering sort of face going on, and If you're looking up, it makes her look imposing and
Smug
powerful,
look.
and
Yeah.
looks like she's standing over you. Whereas if you want to do something that's not that, if you want to make a good guy, you normally don't do that because it doesn't give you that impression. So you normally make him sort of below you and or on the same level.
Or at equality with you.
Right.
At an equilibrium.
I wanted to mention that the one thing that I noticed in this piece that you kind of talked about with the square features, it gave off a different vibe for me. Not to say that I don't agree that these harder edges would lead to a more villainous look.
Sure.
But to me, the harder edges, I guess a lot of it is because I focus on faces, gave off a very masculine vibe.
I can see that.
I felt like this character's face and even the body in some ways feels very masculine to me, and I feel like this is a very typical kind of reaction to a piece, to viewing things like that, because traditionally speaking, stereotypes, masculine is kind of blocky and bigger and stoic, and that's the kind of the impression that I get from this piece. And I think the thing that would counter that from like a, again, stereotypical standpoint would be the longer hair. The longer hair might give off a sense of femininity, which would counterbalance that. However, in this piece, the hair is so, there's many points of non-definition, where there's just a lacking of anything drawn. It's white space. And in addition to that, the cross-hatching style that's used is kind of so different that it doesn't lend itself to always being seen as hair. So in a way, my first impressions of this piece were very masculine, because the large feminine part, which was the long flowing hair, was not immediately apparent to be attached or to be hair in general, and then the features were blocky and kind of reminded me a lot of kind of like a male facial structure. So that was a really interesting kind of first impression that I got.
Yeah, sure.
Something that stuck out to me pretty much straight away before I noticed any of that, or maybe after the cross-hatching, was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the fact that Nightmare Moon is on the left half of this sort of open book, and because books don't lie flat, it's sort of the page is coming up off the table. It looks like it gives it a 3D impression where she's coming out at you because the page is like that. I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but I feel like it was, because you could have drawn this all on one page, but she decided to go over two. So it feels like it's coming out at you in a way that's sort of weird, and I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, like I would be careful to give it that much context, since we don't know, since we've been talking about context.
That's my
episode.
impression.
But yeah, no, I totally can see that. Like, I kind of get how, like, what is it? The foot, her back foot is kind of like on a little bit of the other page too, so it looks like she's kind of like coming forward.
Exactly.
I could see that.
I feel like part of it too could just be this artist like starting a sketch and not really like paying too much attention to like composition of it, or like thinking out the long-term composition, and then at some point going, I'm running out of space.
Usually when it's like a sketch in a sketchbook, it just starts out as like a thing maybe on one page, and then you're like, all right, now it takes up 2 pages. But compositionally, I still feel like this is still really good. Like if we looked at the book laying flat and like we scanned or something, got rid of the seam in the middle, like the characters on the left on the 1/3 of this, like, kind of more page design.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, I like the fact that it comes out like that.
No, totally. I was at first I was like, like it could have been a better picture. It could have been not a cell phone camera or something, or they could have maybe laid it flat or held it flat or something. But I do get that same feeling where it's like she's kind of coming forward. She's angled at the right angle too, as if she were coming forward, from that page as it leans up.
Right, and then like, the foreleg is way longer than it should be, and
it could still have a better picture, let's be honest.
Anyway, I was gonna read the description really quick.
Do you mind if I interject really quick?
No,
We were
go
just
for
talking
it.
about context.
Yeah.
And on the topic of the email that was sent in, this is an example of kind of what we were talking about when it's hard to get context here. We would love to talk more about the context of like certain things about this artist. Why was this artist sketching? Like, where was she sketching this from? We get a little bit of that detail in the description, which Bryn's about to go into, but like what else, like what is this sketchbook? What does this sketchbook mean? Like there could be a cool bunch of things that if we knew this artist personally, we might be able to give more kind of fun little anecdotes. But this is an example where it's like, we haven't featured Stickaroo before. This is the first time I've ever seen Stickaroo's art. I just literally started watching this artist today because Burned is featuring this one. So this would be an example where there is some context here, but it's very difficult to discern, at least from my
Yeah,
perspective.
and even like the sketch especially, like this is one of the first sketches by this artist I've actually ever seen, because I've only followed her pony artwork, and she's making it for a while, but it's always been colored and digital, and then all of a sudden out of what seems like nowhere to us, or even like me personally, is like, here's this really cool, traditionally sketched and crosshatched inspired Nightmare Moon on like a traditional sketchbook. That's like, wow, where'd this come from? This is really cool. And it's the only picture of her sketchbook that I have actually ever seen, and through my limited research into her DeviantArt gallery, we actually have access to. And I was going to read the description, and again, it's not very helpful for context, but it's kind of cute. And it's apparently this is the only productive thing that she did this weekend. Like, cool, fun fact. It was actually posted last week, September 11th. And then she says, I bought new manga inking brush pens, but I don't want to ruin the sketch, so it's going to be pencil forever. And I thought that was really, really funny, because she likes this cross-hatching style she's done with the graphite and different things, and so she doesn't want to go over it with paintbrush pens, because it would change it. And I definitely agree. I like this as a graphite sketch, but I'm also kind of a sucker for sketches.
I think any artist, or really anybody who's worked on kind of like a more artistic project, can attest to a work in progress suddenly looking so good that you are afraid to touch it or kind of do the finished product, because gosh dang, your work in progress looks so good.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
have to recreate that magic when you transfer it over in mediums. I've seen a lot of sketches from different artists, works in progress, where the work in progress looks so amazing, and then the finished product is like, yeah, this is good, but there's like a certain magic to the sketch, that gets captured there, and so I can definitely understand where that's coming from. It's a very interesting thing that I don't think gets talked about a lot.
Yeah. Well, like each medium lends itself to do different things, And so, like for being a graphite sketch, I still feel like this turned out really awesome. It's cool stuff. I like it a lot. I wish I could draw like
really
this.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm still surprised. We've been doing this for 3 years. I'm still surprised when I find new artists who have this like plethora, this huge gallery of art that I just have never seen before. It's like, dang, how did I possibly miss you, right? But Stickeroo has a lot of really, really awesome stuff.
Really
in her
bright
gallery.
and colorful stuff too. Go check it out.
I actually lied there. I have seen this artist once before, and it's in a really weird context that I'm going to go over really quickly. So Byrne was previously looking at a pony called Lava Cookie.
Oh yeah, Lava
Right.
Cookie. Yeah.
So there is a pony, and I'm going to go grab the image. There's a pony called Lava Cookie, and it's an OC from a user called Kermazinch. And the only reason why this is ever relevant for our podcast at all is because Kermazinch will occasionally come out to the live streams that are done by Shinoda, Chira, and Agamnetsar, and occasionally guests. One such guest. Three of us have all been guests at one time or another. But when I was a guest on there, and I think we've all done this as well, I tried to help them out by helping them with like coloring or whatever.
Yeah.
So because I did the coloring, I would often have to color OCs. I'd have to look at OC references. Lava Cookie is one of the OCs that
you've colored.
That I've colored,
No
and
way.
that reference picture was the reference picture by Stickeroo.
No way.
But I never actually went in because I was busy at the time, and dropping a pen. I'm very busy. I was busy at the time doing that live stream, so I never looked into it more. But there you
That's
go. I
pretty
just learned that now. So cool. But for the most part, I haven't seen this artist before.
All
I
right,
definitely
well,
haven't.
thanks,
sad about that.
Stickeroo. You're a cool person, and I like your art.
Shout out to Lava Cookie. All right. So the next one is Joel's art piece.
It is mine. I chose this one. It is called Twilight the Fiction Writer by Saturn Space. Or Saturn, like the planet. Saturn Space. This one was linked to me by Citizen Smiley, who did the whole tagging us in the comments thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I really like the way that this one's coloured. I mean, there's not a whole lot of outlines to be said, but the way that it sort of looks like watercolor, even though it's completely digital. But the way it's done like that, I really, really liked it.
Well, Saturn Space is such an interesting artist to me.
Yeah.
Because Saturn Space makes like the coolest and strangest like steampunk-esque things. And at first when I looked at this piece I didn't recognize it, but there's these big like wings that are so steampunk, and I feel like you can recognize a lot of Saturn Space's stuff, not necessarily by the style that he has, but more so the stuff that he draws.
Yeah.
And
The content.
this stuff's it's always super cool, and every single time I literally just click the watch button because for whatever reason before I hadn't, but every single time that I see this artist, I always end up going through their gallery and being like, oh yeah, I forgot about this artist, look at how cool this stuff is.
There's definitely a lot of Victorian inspired things in this piece that kind of like lends you to that steampunk-esque stuff. Like I'm looking at the pen right now, and like if your pen has a fin, it's steampunk. even like what is it, the couch too is very like Victorian in outfit.
I'm not really the biggest fan of
the
steampunk.
Headdress.
I think that's why I think it's probably why I like this one a lot. It's not in your face like a lot of the other stuff that he's done is.
There's definitely no cogs.
Yeah.
Right. I can understand kind of where you're coming from. The theme, if you're not super into it, and the artist can be a bit overwhelming. And overbearing might not be the right term, but overwhelming is kind of the feeling that I get for a lot of things. But yeah, this is a piece where, as I was mentioning before, it's not subtle because once you look at it, you're like, oh, duh. But I don't know. I guess I focused more in on the character and relating it back to the title, which was the fiction writer. So you look at the fiction, you look at the picture that's on there, you look at her as a writer and what that kind of entails, and that's where my kind of first glances go, and then your vision kind of slowly unfolds from there and go, whoa, that's a crazy pen. What wings?
Right. I like a funky fountain pen.
Yeah, it's great.
Also, I have this idea of like context in the back of my head, and I was gonna say this is done in February 5th, 2013. So
long time ago.
Yeah, bit ago. Grip. And this was when Clockwise Hooves had 3,000 followers. This was done as like a 3,000 follower special. And Clockwise Hooves has a lot more than 3,000 followers now.
Well, it's also done. Well, it's funny that you mentioned the Clockwise Hooves thing, because this piece does say at the very bottom, this isn't something that we added in. This is in the actual art piece itself. It links to the askclockwisehooves.tumblr.com.
Yeah.
And so that's context as well. But what I wanted to mention was that it was an interesting choice of the artist to put such an explicit kind of link to the page. And in addition, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with the black bar across the whole bottom of the page. It does give visibility to the actual text. It's very difficult in text to get it looking like it's integrated in, and we've talked about watermarks a lot, about good watermarks and bad watermarks, and I wanted to bring it up because it is a part of this piece. This isn't something that we added in, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's really nowhere near the most egregious examples of a watermark that I've seen.
Yeah. It's at least it's sort of not obscuring anything. It's off to the corner. It's off to the side. That's how a watermark should be done, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess it'd be easy to crop off if somebody wanted to quote unquote steal this. But
yeah,
the fact that it's on there.
I think watermarks serve different purposes depending on the artist, and sometimes you can serve multiple purposes, right? But certain watermarks like these aren't necessarily to like prevent people from stealing. It's more just like having a way to remind people, by the way, this is made for the Tumblr, so hey, go check that out. Kind of like a shout out,
Yeah, but it's also like it's an example of what the artist made like 2 years ago. So like I feel like in comparison to stuff the artist is making now, it still like pales in comparison. Yeah. And also like the artist is probably using more like better uses of watermarks these days.
Yeah, I just thought it's an interesting concept. I always like talking about kind of watermarks in terms of the meta effect they have on pieces, and this is one that I don't think we've talked about on the show before. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting choice. And it's an artistic choice that you as an artist, or if you're an aspiring artist, it's something that you can choose. You have to choose, how am I going to watermark my pieces?
Yeah.
Um,
Just whatever you do, don't use the DeviantArt one.
yeah. Does anybody else have anything to say about this piece, or Bernd, are you just drooling over the rest of his gallery?
I'm just looking at the rest of his gallery, actually. I haven't looked at anything this artist has made in a long time, but I remembered
it's
the
the same
blog.
thing that I have, where it's just like, for whatever reason, we just haven't kept up with this artist, and there's been this consistent pumping out of awesome content that we've missed.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, it sometimes it requires episodes like these that remind us, so that we then have it on the brain. It's kind of like the context thing. Now, then we have it on the brain, so in future episodes, you might see us start bringing it up more often. I wonder why. Cool. All right, well, if that's everything, let's move on to my piece. And my piece this week was called You Found Me by Shedance. And Shedance is another artist that I did not know of before being told about this piece. I believe, I'm trying to remember right now, I believe that Otaku AP sent me this piece and suggested it to be featured on the show. I apologize if I actually got that wrong and it wasn't him, it was someone else. But it was over Skype. So someone on Skype sent me a message and said, hey, you should feature this one. And I thought it was a really great idea, and I really enjoy featuring new artists that I haven't seen before. So Shedance is one of those artists, and this is a lovely nature scene with Fluttershy and really creepy angel bunny.
Right. Although Angel's pretty creepy anyway, but
I don't know. This one's got like a
this one's in
got like a
particular.
stone statue come to life vibe.
Yeah, this one in particular is creepy. But it's okay, I never liked him anyway. Anyway, this scene, despite the creepy angel bunny, is very serene. It's very quiet and relaxed.
Yeah, it is interesting. Kind of the. I don't think it was the artist's intention to draw Angel Bunny in such a way that might look a little bit off, but there's this sense that I get where there's a juxtaposition between the calm scene and then just this kind of like lurking bunny expression that kind of gives me the creeps. It's a weird juxtaposition in my head, because you're right, it does give off so many things that would imply that it's a calm scene.
I know you guys are crazy. I'm not seeing this creepy bunny vibe you guys are getting.
Maybe it's because I'm zoomed out, but I don't know. There's something about his face. It's something about his beady, lifeless eyes that just something about them. But I will say I do like the artist's style. I like the emphasis on kind of the face shape. You can see it a little bit in Fluttershy as well, but there's kind of a lot of care given towards the areas of the eyes in terms of actually giving them definition, as opposed to just like tacking on 2D pieces of paper that look like eyes. You know what I mean? Like
Buttons.
there's a definite like 3D shape to the face of both the pony and Angel.
Yeah.
There's a lot of care put into, like you said, rendering these characters in 3D. So like even Angel Bunny, like in his face, like his eyebrows and like how they're shade underneath like his face and then his head, and then the character as well, how like kind of the limbs are kind of like carved and then like shaded on either side of them, and then underneath the chin. And it's very like lovingly detailed and everything in this. It seems like even like zoomed in, there's still like this kind of like care in where colors go and where shades go, and like wow, like zooming in on those eyes, there's so many like eyelashes. Yeah, there's like a ridiculous amount of care into stuff that went in this. So like a piece of I'd say this piece to me looks very careful. And so like I think that lends to this like serene feeling that Joel was talking about, where like you have these sun rays coming in, so the narrative's serene as well, and she's like hiding in the shade, and the title adds narrative like, oh, you found me. And so this is apparently Fluttershy without a cutie mark, because the artist was too lazy to draw it.
Well,
maybe
we're not being jerks here. She
literally
said that in the description.
Yeah, and so then what is it? But just like what is it? The color as well. And so like it's just very like the what is it? The color is very analogous. It's very similar. It's
even the yellows
like
are green.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
everything has a very green tone to it, and then like the most outstanding color is Fluttershy's hair, which isn't even quite a pink for Fluttershy.
No.
It's actually more of a red and like an orange. Um,
Well,
and
yeah, with the shading of this piece, it definitely comes into this. The literal colors of it are quite orange.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so you
which
have
is what I
this
see.
instead of like a green pink duality, you have kind of like a green yellow orange duality. So it again, it's like the artist picked an analogous color palette of like green to yellow to orange, and then use that in like the entirety of this piece.
Yeah.
And also, how I was saying, like how it's like drawn and illustrated makes it seem really serene, and how it seems careful. Like look at like the leaves in the top. Like you see how kind of like perfect and like drawn in each leaf is,
Mm-hmm.
and then like the trees in the background too, how they're like kind of like slowly like weave through. And then the bark too, like the bark is still again like lovingly illustrated with all these different
Yeah.
lines that go through and kind of like slowly flow down and like frame Fluttershy. In fact, the bark to this tree almost makes Fluttershy look like she's sitting in a curtain, like a veil, more than she's like sitting behind a tree.
Yeah, it's actually sitting in the hollow of a tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like this thing that's carved out into the tree that she's then sitting within.
This thing is just really bloody pretty. And like the spots of light on
Oh,
top
I was
of
going to say
Fluttershy
that,
as well.
yeah.
Stole it.
Like the
Beat you
speckled
to
light
it.
that comes in through the treetops and like
Yeah.
just dances on her.
It's all over Fluttershy.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's incredibly, well done. And there's so many things in this piece that are just magic to me. Like we can spend a lot of time analyzing what makes a certain art piece, great, but there's just so much detail and care that goes into this piece. Like, you guys should definitely check it out in full detail.
Oh, wow, it's huge.
Sheddence's page.
Yeah,
because
it's really
it
big.
is huge, so you can really zoom in and get the details. But even when you zoom in, you look at the detail of like the hairline, right? You follow the hairline on the top of Fluttershy's head, and there's depth to it. There's a 3D aspect. The
yeah.
hair folds, it curves, and like that's crazy to me. She's actually drawn the back eye. You can see like barely any of it.
Yep.
Mostly just the eyelashes, but she's drawn that. It exists. The muzzle's got 3D. Like it to me, a lot of this is just magic. It's like I couldn't explain to you why her head looks so gosh dang good and 3D, but it just is. And it doesn't. The other thing is too, like that doesn't. Fluttershy is one of the big things that has a lot of 3D detail in the character herself, but the rest of the scene, there isn't a huge amount of 3D detail. The same amount of detail isn't necessarily put in for, like, say, the trees or the background or the leaves. They're all more 2D, but it doesn't stand out as like, whoa, 3D in a 2D world. Like, there's none of that at all. It's this really cool mixture of the two.
Yeah.
Another adjective that comes to mind is harmonious. Like everything seems like it's like together in harmony, and what I think is doing that the most is this color palette chosen, since everything is kind of does have this like green tying it together. So there's like a really strong color harmony.
Yeah,
Like going
it's really
on.
difficult to do that with My Little Ponies. Although I say that, but we've got a billion different examples with amazing artists out there. So good on you, artist community. But conceptually, it's very difficult to take these characters, which have bright, not overly saturated, but very bright and very saturated colors, and put them into a scenario like this, where it's serene, it's beautiful, it's calm. These colors blend together well, but it's really a testament to these artists' strengths that they're able to do something like this. Fluttershy is fairly bright yellow and blazingly pink in her hair. Like it's very stand out. It stands out a lot. That's why those characters' colors were chosen. It stands out from the background, right? In the show, it's supposed to stand out.
Yeah.
But in this, we've managed to get this color in her hair, which is so not standoutish. It blends in. It's harmonious.
And
Definitely.
I didn't even realize this. I didn't realize it was so big. But now that I'm looking at it in the full blown up detail, there's just so much of it that when you zoom out, it all blends together and it makes it look amazing.
Yeah.
Like all the weird, almost cross-hatching shading that's happening in the background behind the trees and underneath her. It all just blends together
Yeah.
into a color.
The backgrounds are really interesting. There's a lot of texture in the background, kind of texture splotches in place of actually physically drawing trees
Yeah.
all the way in the background. But it's so hard to kind of tell because that part of the piece is definitely not the focus of the piece, right?
Yeah.
The tree is framing Fluttershy. Fluttershy is the most detailed by far out of anything in this piece. So your eye is drawn down and into that kind of lower right area. Angel Bunny drags you away a little bit, but then you feel like you're being sucked into his eyes, so you have to drag yourself away from it. But yeah, like to get a full appreciation for it, this is definitely one of those art pieces where we'd recommend you go to the page, look at the page in full detail, and just check it out. The same thing applies to the grass below Fluttershy as well. But again, it's not the focus of the piece, so you don't get drawn to it, and you don't notice the way that it's almost messily done. And messy isn't always a bad adjective for those of you out there who don't know that. But yeah, it's there's so much to this piece that to me is just magic, just because of how it's all put together in such a harmonious way. I don't get how that's possible.
Yeah.
But it is.
Well, it's like we listed quite a few different ways, I guess, if you can't get it, for our viewers listening out there. Like we talked about color, like how it's illustrated, like the way that the lines move and like the composition is, with things like around Fluttershy, like flowing like the bark, how the trees are illustrated, how like sharp and clean like Fluttershy and Angel Bunny and these trees and leaves are illustrated. Like they don't kind of like go out of their own bounds, and like colors don't leak out of them. How the colors mash up against each other is very precise, and yet the color all still like blends together with like green and yellow all being very close and very analogous. And then also, the narrative, the lighting does a lot of that as well. And so like all of these things like put together really make it seem like this very peaceful thing as a whole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd also like to mention that I was curious. I'm sometimes curious about these things, not so much recently, but for this one in particular, I was like, I wonder why I haven't seen this artist before. Click on her page, click on her statistics. She's got under 500 watchers. She's currently at 494, and I expect after the show comes out to it be at least 500. This is criminal. This is absolutely criminal for the amount of skill that is presented in this piece and the amount of potential that is shown. And so I would highly recommend people go to the page and not just check out this one art piece, but realize that there is a lot more in this gallery that is really, really awesome, and people should watch this person.
So Luna one I really like.
Yeah. There's one that's done that I'm not going to feature. There's this cute little one that looks like a Loxteo pwn, and that's really, really cute. And I think she's either aware of Loxteo or friends, because Loxteo commented on this DeviantArt.
Hey, Lamau.
DeviantArt page.
It's an OC. I wonder if it's a Lox's OC.
Maybe. It's super cute. Anyways, yeah, I like to bring that up. Watch numbers are weird and silly. Like they never reflect like the actual value of the person.
Yeah.
To give you an example, I've got like 1600. I don't know when the hell I got those or how the hell I got those, but like
vectors are cool.
Like if I could switch, I would do that, because this artist has so much potential that needs to be shown more. So, community, could you do that? Thanks. That'd be great. It feels so criminal to me that can happen to someone who we've managed to blather on about for the last like 10-15 minutes.
It's true.
Speaking of blathering on, we've done a lot of that. So why don't we move on to our question section?
Okay, I can do that. That's my job. Okay.
Pick the actual question first.
Actual question first? Okay. So,
Yes.
Question this week from Southfur, who just sent in a bunch, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Otaku AP versus late customer. Which one?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, we've got ourselves a showdown of the century there. Otaku AP or late customer.
I don't know. I think I'd have to see him wrestle it out up close and personal.
I'm sure you could arrange that. I think personally that you're coming at this from the wrong perspective, I think when you think about things, why not both? Why not Otaku AP and late customer? And while we're at it, there's a short form, for and you could just write in, I don't know, like let's say like a variable name. Like let's just put in X, X, and we'll say X equals and that way we can shorten down the sentence so it can give you guys a really easy way to kind of view my statement here. But that's kind of my point of view on things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say that's fine.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah.
They say blue.
On a more serious note, I never compare artists.
No.
I talk about my favorite artists, but I never compare artists because in those there's always a winner and a loser, and the winner feels the effects much less than the loser.
Yep.
It's also why I don't like talking about favorites in general when there's a small sample size. To give an example, we once had someone make a poll: "Who's your favorite Cutie Art Crusader?"
I lost that, I think.
No, I did.
Did you?
Which I was glad for because I didn't like the concept of that.
Favorites?
Because when you make those lists, the concept is sound. You have a favorite. That's really cool. That's super awesome of people to have favorites, and that's natural, right? But there's always going to be someone. If you show all the results, there's always going to be someone at the bottom.
Yeah.
I was glad that it was me because I don't want any of my friends to feel bad about that kind of stuff. But that's why I don't like pitting people against each other, because there's always a winner and a loser, and we should all be winners. And I think Otaku AP and Light Customer are both winners. So yeah. Okay, cool. So
Move on?
yeah.
Alright, so we're going to play that game again that we played last week. For those of you who weren't here, each of you pick a pony artist, describe their work in 3 words or phrases, then the rest of us try and guess who it is. There's only 3 of us this week, and I designate me to go first. So I'm going to go first.
Cool. I'm not perfect in this game, but in terms of the 3 that we had last week, the 3 official ones, I got all 3. So I don't know why I was so good at that, but I just have this sinking feeling that I'm not actually as good at it as I seemed. So I'm curious to see how this is going to go.
Yeah. Alright, well, I choose myself to go first because I have a feeling one of you might have chosen the same one as me, so if you did,
Sure.
ha. Okay, so my 3 things are expressions, super cute, and lately been traditional.
Sorry, what was that last one?
They've lately been quite traditional.
Lately been.
Lately been doing traditional stuff rather than digital.
Okay. So one more time, all 3.
Expressions, super cute, and lately traditional.
Expressions, super cute, and lately traditional. Okay, I have the answer. I'm going to write it to Joel so that I don't steal it from Burned, but I will let Burned go first.
That beats me. I know Glacier Clear's been drawing, and she has good expressions, but...
Is it all right? So you don't have a guess?
No.
Okay, well I'll just say what I sent to Joel. Captain Pudge Muffin.
That's what he said, and yes, you're correct.
Woo!
Okay.
Yeah, that one was good. I feel like it's almost cheating for me to go into my favorites folder.
Context behind that, Captain Pudge Muffin's computer borked and broke, and that's why he's been doing traditional work and posting it. He's been posting it via his tablet, but like his, like just little like Windows tablet. But he hasn't been able to sketch things digitally because his computer is kaputnik.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough.
Okay, cool. Do you want to go next, Burned, or do you want me to?
You can go ahead. I'm gonna stump you. It's the goal.
Okay, cool. So I have a hard time making up these ones, so I don't know how well mine are gonna go. I think I'm pretty bad at this, but okay. So my 3 things are soft shaded, artist training grounds (ATG), and the third one is German.
German.
Oh.
Da.
Hmm.
Soft shaded, artist training grounds, and German.
Oh, I might know who it is.
I will also say that this artist in particular, there were many other hints that I could have given, but it would have immediately given away who the artist was. So these are meant to intentionally be kind of hard.
Okay.
What German artist do I know?
I can give you one more hint, or I can give you a couple more hints if you want.
Okay.
If you guys are stumped.
Give us a 4th word. I got nothing.
Okay. I'm not going to give you a 4th word. I'm going to give you some context here. I have mentioned this artist on this podcast.
You mentioned a
That
lot
doesn't
of
really
artists
help.
on this podcast.
Like, no, I mean today
Oh.
Oh,
on
today.
this show. I have
Good.
said this person's name.
That doesn't help me at all. It's also not who I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm pretty dull.
All right, I'm gonna add one more word.
Give me a word.
Streams.
Oh, I got it.
You go.
Bam. Yep. I was like, I knew the person was German, my guess. Oh, can I just guess?
Go for
Yes.
it.
Is it Chira?
It is Chira.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
definitely knew she was German. But what were the other words?
Soft shaded
Soft shaded, okay.
and artist training grounds.
I didn't know she did artist training.
Yeah, so that one was more difficult because it required you to kind of like keep up with her work, and she's also lesser known. So yeah, okay, that's cool. I feel like I had a good level of difficulty there. Cool. Starting to learn this side of the game more.
I was also trying to think of what other German artists I know, and I was like, there's only Chira.
I thought it was fair to bring this one up because I don't know how well Ted knows. Like Chira, by the way, I mentioned her previously because I talked about Agamemnon, Shinoda, and Chira's stream, and she streams with Agamemnon and Shinoda every single week. They recently actually hit their 1-year anniversary. It's either coming up to their 1 year, but they hit their 50th episode. So congratulations to them on doing that every single week. But yeah, I wanted to because I knew both of you knew Chira.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought that would be a fair. I thought that'd be a fair one.
No, I didn't draw that conclusion at all.
Cool. All right, Bert.
Wait. Yeah, okay.
I'm
KP
not
Shadow
very good- I'm
Scrolls
not very good at
from
this game.
KP Shadow Scrolls from Germany too.
Ah, okay. See, I
There you
didn't
go.
know that. So you
Could have been
stumped me on
could
that
have been
one.
a good one. Anywho, okay, so my 3 words. Hopefully I stump you guys on this one, but maybe you'll just be like, oh, easy peasy. But my 3 words are thinly outlined, beautifully colored, and perfection.
Oh, perfection.
I'm so bad at this game.
Thinly outlined, beautifully colored, which is so subjective, and perfection. I feel like you there's more meaning behind these things. Like the when you say perfection, there's something you're thinking of when you think of perfection.
Nope, just perfection. Like that's the artist's craft. Not meaning vectors. Like
So
like perfection is a very important word to this artist and like how precise their line art must be.
I've got a couple of ideas. Give me one
I've got-
minute here.
Seriously, no idea.
Thinly outlined.
Like thinly outlined is another very good word descriptor.
And you're
for this
saying that the
artist.
perfection. Sorry, I'm going to ask you a question about this. You're
yeah.
saying the perfection is kind of inherent to the artist. The artist is really.
It's definitely a perfectionist.
Okay. Let me just check one more thing here. And just wanted to make sure. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't do super thin outline. No, that'd be too easy. There's no way you'd pick that artist. All right, I'm going to go with Cosmic Unicorn.
Nope.
Ah.
I have
Darn.
quite literally no idea.
Okay, can I guess Virgil?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Vice?
Nope.
Okay, well, then I didn't get it. Fair enough,
So
you stumped me.
the artist I chose was Antiander.
Antian.
See, I would have never have picked that.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna put a piece of artwork on the screen. I'll link it to you. If you look at his
Oh, I should have
line
got
art,
this. We were talking about Antiander before the show.
yeah. So if you look at his line art, the example currently in his gallery, because he apparently has this very love-hate relationship with his own beautiful artwork and deletes a lot of stuff out of this gallery. The line art that is present in his gallery currently is Moonrise, which is a piece of Luna. And if you look at it, it is incredibly infinitesimally like thin, small, extremely accurate line art. to the point where we don't even have access to a high enough resolution image to see where there are certain lines, like in the crease of her nose or in her eyelashes, like creating shading. Like those are actually very small, thin lines. And like everything is like perfectly round, perfectly shaped. No line is like going through or underneath each other. Everything is matching up at like perfect points and sides. So it's like that concept of perfect. It's like, yeah, it can be subjective, but if there's a goal to reach, like he's pretty damn close. And like that is not just of my opinion. There's a couple other people and artists I know who like hold that opinion as well. I've ranted about Antiender before. And then he uses color again, like very, very beautifully and well put. Like when we featured his artwork on the show, whether it was like his Applejack piece or his Fluttershy piece, like we would go get like the find a color palette or color palette creator online and then like dissect it and then look at that in the show. So like if we're going getting a color palette tool just to talk about how he colors his pony artwork, like he's definitely doing something right there yet again.
Yeah.
So.
It's like I said. I feel like there was more meaning behind some of these things. Like with perfection, there was more meaning and I got it out of you, which is like this artist considers like trying to get things perfect a very important part of their no, that was good. I initially was a bit like, those are generic, but as you explain them more, like they absolutely do make sense. What might have caught me is that during my searches for things, like when I'm trying to think of the artist, I will go through a couple of people's favorites folders to refresh my memory on artists. And Antiender deactivated their old account, and this is like a new account that they're on now.
Antiender-art. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that definitely screwed me.
What was the old account called?
I think it was just Antiender, wasn't it?
Antiender, yeah.
If people would go back, and you can go into some of our favorites folders, and you'll see that these pieces like no longer exist or something. I don't know.
Oh no, it's the Antiender just deleted them. Quite literally deleted them. They're not on his DeviantArt. I don't know if this is like a new account or whatever. Totally could be.
I think it was a new account because I read his journal and he said something about the fact that like I'm back on DeviantArt. Unfortunately, I can't restore my old page, so it doesn't really matter. I'll just start from zero.
Yep. Well, like always, I'm glad to see him back and see him here, and I'm always happy to see his art, and those are definitely 3 words that I define him by, is his outlines, his beautiful colors, and definitely perfection.
Good one. That was a good one. If people enjoy this section, we're going to keep doing it as long as we find it fun. Feel free to not only take your own guesses while you're watching, but also give us suggestions as well. If you want to send us in some stuff, give us 3 kind of suggest. I don't know how people would do it. It'd have to put in some sort of spoiler tag or something, because we need the answer too, or else we're just going to sound stupid. But if someone can figure out a way to send us...
send it to us via Ask on Tumblr.
Well, no, just maybe send us to it like via email, but don't put like the URL so we can't tell what the artist is, or hide the URL somehow so we don't know, but we can click through when we actually want to find out.
Or note us on DeviantArt with the link hidden.
Oh, did we talk about who won last week, or who actually guessed correctly?
No, we didn't. Why don't we talk about that, Brent? Because you posed a question last week.
Yeah, I invited our audience, our viewers, to play, and we did have a few people who played, and we did indeed have a winner, so to speak, or someone who guessed correctly.
Do you want to quickly just remind people what the prompts were that you gave?
Oh yeah, totally. So last week, when we were ending, we couldn't remember the name of an artist we did as like a bonus round, and that was small ponies, extremely cute, and stubby arms. And those were the 3, and I couldn't remember the name of the artist, so I invited our audience to play, and someone actually got it right in our YouTube comments, which is where we asked people to post. And Midnight666 was got it right, and the answer was mackin7.deviantart.com. And now it was actually a little more challenging than I thought, because Mackin7 hasn't done like strictly pony stuff in like quite a while. Like there's definitely some pony characters, I think, but they're very original, or they're like OCs and they're not like canon show ponies type of deal. Looks like they're from Odd Island, whatever that is. But I admittedly don't know what that is. But this artist used to make a bunch of really, really cute canon stuff with these small little chibi ponies and just like tiny little stubby little dinky arms. And yeah, that was the artist that we were thinking. It was Mackin7. So awesome. Thank you, Midnight666. And I also did a second thing just for funsies, kind of as a joke there at the end. I said I'll give everyone a second one, and the 3 words were what is it? It was so vibrant, so vibrantly colored, or it was like vibrant, colorful, and outlined, something along those lines. But it was just an easy. I did it as a joke, and it was a Blitz pony.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I said at the end of it. So I got it straight away. It was Blitz pony.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no one got that one, but I kind of just like threw it in there at the end.
Yeah. Cool. Well, again, if you enjoy this, if you enjoy that part of our show, it's fun. I have fun with it, so I think we're gonna keep doing it so long as we have good ones. We might not do it all 3 of us every single week, but maybe one of us will bring it in and we'll bring it up every once in a while. But yeah, that's basically everything for our show. So I guess we should go on to the plugs. Joel?
I can do that. Alright, so we've got a few places you can find us. We've got picado.tv/Cutie Art Crusaders, cutieartcrusaders.deviantart.com, cutieartcrusaders@gmail.com, youtube.com/cutieartcrusaders, cutieartcrusaders.tumblr.com, facebook.com/cutieartcrusaders, and @cutieartcrusader on Twitter.
Cool. Alright, well, that is everything for this week, guys. I believe Flutter Guy is back next week. He hasn't said anything as to not being back next week, so I'm just going to assume that he is. Do we have anything for next week, Bernd?
We should have a guest next week.
Cool. All right.
We still do that?
Yeah. Look out for a guest episode next week. And other than that, that's everything for this week. So thank you guys for listening and for watching. Whether or not you're on live stream or on YouTube, we love you all the same. My name is Rainbow Plasma.
My name's Bern.
I'm Atmosbark.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.